I first met Colin Andrews about a dozen years ago at a conference in Connecticut where we were both speakers. In fact, it was his very first speaking job in the United States. One of the things I like about Colin is the way that he approaches his research. He has a background in engineering. He has a very nuts and bolts approach to these things. And at the same time, he is his own skeptic. He has to be. And overall, it's informed a tremendous amount of research. If you can't be the one to take the hardest look at your work, then somebody else is going to.
Colin,
Good to
so
see you
good
again,
to
Pete.
see you.
And you, sir. Come on through.
Will do.
Unlike UFOs, which most people think of as fleeting, ethereal, alleged, crop circles, the man-made ones as well as the absolute real ones, are in your face. They're there. They're huge. They form quickly. They're elegant. They're undeniable. They are genuine mysteries. For what it's worth, though, in a true mystery like this, there are going to be more questions than there are going to be answers.
Before we get started, I got a couple of books for you. One copy for Mel, with my compliments, and one copy for David, which he can pay a couple of bucks for. But I know you can't have too many copies of
You're a
Left City
gentleman.
Skate there.
Thank you, Peter. That's very kind.
My pleasure.
Excellent.
And God, you think about
Hardback.
that.
My other one is paperback.
Oh, okay. All right.
Excellent.
Well, very good.
Thank you. Most kind. And I'll certainly make sure that Mel gets his copy.
Now,
Probably
it
the
also
same
occurred to me that I'm lucky enough to have a copy of Circular Evidence, which is now about to re-hit the stands all over the place. And I thought, well,
Why not?
what the hell,
Thank
exactly.
you. The working copy, too.
Doesn't get any better than that. You know, I think back, Colin, how many years we've both been kind of horse-blinded and working in our own areas, and you look at your book, you look at my book, and you know, people read it, but we look at it and we remember, you know, what the weather was like on an afternoon when we were doing a chapter
Absolutely.
or something. The other thing is Circular Evidence now. I've had it out the last few days in anticipation of getting together with you and rereading parts of it. And you look at the cover shot and it seems so innocent and so simple.
I agree.
When, of course, at the time, it was the cutting edge of crop circle research.
Absolutely.
And-
This guy here turned us right on. This was I cried when I took that photograph up in the aircraft.
Wow.
Yeah, the complexity, as you say, and yet it is so simple.
It makes you
Thank
wonder.
you, Peter.
And I guess wonder is a great deal of what we're here for. I don't know. You know, we've never really had a time where we could sit down together and just for an extended period talk about what we do and where it started. And right now, with crop circles in an ironic way about to break in a popular culture sense on the Western world with the release of these two movies over this coming summer, certainly that you've been involved in.
But crop circles have now entered popular culture. There is no question. With Led Zeppelin on the record of, on the cover of one of his records, 1991, I believe. Mitsubishi have had crop circles construct in cereal crops a new generation of their vehicles. Cigar manufacturers, Will's cigars, you name it now, vehicles of all kinds have been made in crop circles. So Disney now, of course, are placing the same subject onto the silk screen, and I think the term crop circles in the future will be a term we will all recognize.
It occurs to me sometimes, I think about what you do and when you started, and I think the parallel for me loving film so much is D.W. Griffith in 1909. He was making up the film industry as he went along. It didn't exist before.
Right.
The area of serious crop circle research is relatively new, and you and a tiny handful of people basically created it.
Yeah, 4 of us. There's 4 of us.
The other 3, just to go on record, one would be
Well,
Busty.
yeah, Busty Taylor, the light aircraft pilot, Pat Delgado, who had just retired from the Mariner project for NASA,
Oh, for goodness sake.
and Dr. Terence Mead, the meteorologist. Of course, I didn't know any of those
No, of course
guys
not.
when I was just driving down that road.
I we're going to get lost in this for most of the day. I'm real curious how you started. I mean, you did have a life before this. You
I
were
did.
a civil servant. You
Yeah.
were a fireman for many
Yes.
years. You were married.
Yeah.
You had what we would call like a straight life in the real world.
Yeah.
What happened?
That's a good question. As you say it, Peter, my hairs stand on my arms because the impact and significance of what happened to me is not only so unusual, I know that everything about me turned 360 degrees in about half a second. And the not knowing that I was driving to a regular meeting as a senior officer in regional government for everything to change in my life. When it took a momentary glance to my left, I saw a set of 5 circles forming a cross. It not only impacted me, I could see there was something very precise and something very unusual. I mean, that was in a quarter of a second. I could see there's something very bizarre here. Something happened in my stomach. I felt, well, you could say like a nervous butterfly. Something grabbed me. And from the moment I stopped my vehicle, I was late for my meeting. I walked into that field and I saw at first hand whatever you hear today on the television and the movie theaters. What I saw from the beginning that compelled me to pursue this was that there were no tracks, none. I saw with my own eyes that the only tracks into that field were mine. There, when I reached that first circle, again the hair rises on my arm. It's
Mine
very
too.
strange that that happens.
It's
But I
real.
walked into that circle, and it was like entering a church, a cathedral. There was an air about it, a sense to it, and in fact it felt almost virgin-like in the sense that I didn't feel that I should touch it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It felt
Worthy of
extremely
respect.
special.
Had you ever heard of the phenomena? Because
Never.
Oh, for
No,
goodness sakes.
no, I'd never heard of crop circles. I don't think many people had. In fact, my research since that time, that's nearly 20 years ago, now I can say that not
This
many
was
people had.
early 80s.
This was 1983.
Okay.
Yeah, July 1983.
And the first crop circle documented in Great Britain is only like 5 years before that.
Well,
or so.
1975, in that general area, just about 10 miles north of
And that was
Winchester.
just a circle.
It was just a circle.
Okay.
Yeah, and the one I saw was 5 circles,
Right.
but forming a cross. So there was a geometry, a little more. In those days, that was seen as being complex. I'm an engineer, and in looking at these circles in a field, the thing that I see is the sheer symmetry, the beauty, the lack of damage, which pulls it away from people
Yes.
already, towards what on earth could it be? So the engineer cuts in. I was in a privileged position in local government to have access to the Ministry of Defence and police and the military establishments in that area, and I was asking 1,000 questions at 1,000 miles an hour. Nobody likes to lose friends. Nobody likes to feel that you're making somebody else feel uncomfortable. So I was playing a dance. I was wanting to secure scientific interest and my colleagues' interest, because I had some very clever people around me. And the only way that I was able to achieve any progress, that is with maintaining my interest in my professional job and my hobby, which it was at that time, was to basically, the stance I took was, let's gather data. What I've got is real in so much as it's data. The crop circle is in the field, isn't it? Don't let's at this point ask how it got there. It's in the field. I can see it, I can photograph it, I can measure it, I can analyze it. And that has been the starting point.
How long was it before you saw your second crop circle?
That's a very good question, and I think the first time I've ever been asked that. And I've got to think about it, because that from the beginning, the first one, I can remember almost every plant that I saw and touched. What was it? It was 1983. The next one was 1985. That's a very good question. 1983 was the first, and I was gathering a lot of information. I spoke to all the farmers in the area. I was seeing photographs for the first time of other crop circles. I didn't see any myself until 1985. By that time, we had built up the local network of farmers who knew who to report them to. the police began to know who and where I was because of my government job.
Yeah.
And in 1985, Busty Taylor was flying his aircraft south of my town in Andover and saw an identical set of 5 circles forming across that I had seen in
Oh, for
'83,
goodness sake.
just south of my home. And Busty brought his data to myself and Pat Delgado.
So that was when you met him, right then and
Yeah,
there? Oh.
yeah. And then the 3 of us, joined by Dr. Terence Meaden, who was looking at similar patterns and simple circles in Wiltshire, met up. And then, of course, from that day on, in '85, we were seeing them weekly, absolutely weekly. But they were all simple circles.
The cross itself that you saw, yes, it's 5 circles, but you know that it's also a Celtic cross. And that is a very loaded piece of Christian imagery, and it's a loaded piece of pre-Christian imagery.
Yes, it is.
And when you looked at it for the first time, did you say, oh my God, a Celtic cross? Or did that sort of hit you later when you saw other formations that suggested patterns from the past?
When I first saw those 5 circles, they were 5 circles, as far as I was concerned. When they positively and instantaneously were a Celtic cross was when we were flying over the book here. This one here. This one here. That was at Leckford. That's south of my town. And this guy, I'll be honest with you. As that aircraft came over, I tell you, a lump hit me right in my throat. And you knew, I guess it was because of the symbolism, obviously, spiritual, Celtic. You knew you had something important. You had news. I knew that it anchored me at the soul level. There was something that impacted me simply by looking at the design. And it had the same effect with other people. And it's so hard to describe, but you know that what I used to say regularly to my family, who were very immersed in this too, was to boredom point, I would say, this is going somewhere. This is big. This is going somewhere. That's all that used to keep coming out of my mouth. You know, with each new pattern we go and look at, with every new feature, with every new report, with the UFO reports, with all these things, I just knew the enormity. It was just, this is big.
At a certain point, though, your private life began to unravel a bit around this?
It did. Yes, it did. I had no idea that day how majorly it was going to. I knew that I was hooked. I knew that I had to pursue this. And the more I did so, the less time I was spending on my profession, in my job, which was getting tricky at times. But socially, you know, I was seeing less of my wife and my daughter. There were more and more TV crews coming and hacking up our house, which my wife really didn't like. My wife found the subject difficult to deal with. She felt nervous about it. We had experiences, which I know you and I have spoke about before, of the intruder alarms mysteriously going off.
Indeed.
We had weeks of what appeared to be paranormal activity in our house. And this frightened my first wife, my daughter. And there came a point, several years down the road, I could see it coming then, by that time, you know, where she said, basically, I'm sorry, it sort of even gets me now, you know, it's going to be, it has to be
You've got a choice.
that or me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, you know, being a person who could have walked away. I was on good money, on a very good salary with my whole-time job, but certainly not enough to have simply thrown it in and taken a huge risk at a researcher. I was not an author. I'd just then written this first book. The risk was taken because this book immediately became a bestseller. The Queen Elizabeth chose it for the first time ever as for her summer reading list.
What was that like, finding out that Her Majesty had chosen to read
Well,
your book? Good
it
night.
was-
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a very prestigious listing, you know, which the Queen chooses, and it's 10 books.
That's better than Oprah.
I guess. Depends upon your perspective, but it was chosen, and it meant that this was respectable. that the subject, while some might be seeing it as crop circles mean UFOs mean this, mean this, mean this, at least the monarchy was showing an interest. The Buckingham Palace asked for our newsletter. Prince Philip became involved. Prince Charles became interested and asked to be shown around. And suddenly, the subject did have some respectability. But I decided that the time had come where my heart was in whatever this was about, and I moved on. So my profession was behind me, my marriage was now behind me, and I left my country. I came to America.
Please welcome Colin Andrews.
That was a hell of a lecture, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it changed a lot for me.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for that very warm welcome.
A lot of scientific interest came forward as a result of the lecture and the television work at that time. And here I am.
Colin, right now, we're at a point where crop circles are about to explode into the public consciousness with the release of these two major films, England and the United States. But let's face it, we're also at a time where crop circles are not taken seriously, to put it mildly. In fact, as we know, most people think they're a joke. Let's face it, the fact that some highly publicized ones have proved to be unreal have made most people feel, well, they're all unreal. And the example for me was, somebody saying, well, why should we believe any of them are real? Because we saw that English guy on TV who's supposed to be the big expert, and he says 85% of them or 80% of them are unreal. And
Well, I mean, I guess the brief answer to that, really, Peter, would be to concentrate upon the 20%. In retrospect, perhaps when I had made that statement about 80%, if I had placed it forward as 20% of these are real and there's no evidence of a human foot involved, or a human hand involved, perhaps that would have been the wise way.
glass half full instead of half empty.
Right. Perhaps that would have been it. So 80% has been read as being 100%, and that isn't the case. In the database, there are 10,500 reports worldwide. Now, I'm already saying in the year 1999 and 2000, with surveillance operations underway, with the hilltops of southern England covered in researchers and people, 20%, not one, this is all we're looking for, 20% have no signs of a human hand. That's the reality. Fortunately, I was given the opportunity and approached by Mr. Lawrence Rockefeller for specific funding funding of specific projects. A number of years ago, I was approached by an advisor for Mr. Rockefeller, Lawrence Rockefeller in New York, basically asking if there were any projects that he might be able to assist with, that is the funding of. And I provided a list of projects which I felt would allow us to accelerate our understanding of the crop circle phenomenon, which included the study of the Earth's magnetic field in the vicinity of the crop circles. Well, the work began thanks to Lawrence Rockefeller, and we completed 3 years of study. And what was found was that in a handful of cases, the Earth's magnetic field, that is measured with a magnetometer, a full magnetometer survey conducted inside those crop circles, that the profile of the magnetic field mirror imaged the actual design of the crop circle itself, but was actually about 5 degrees out of sync. So if you could imagine that this is the shape of a crop circle, just this design, the Earth's magnetic field was also the shape of the crop design, but was actually out of synchronicity with it, out of sync with it by about 5 degrees. The preliminary analysis of those results have now been studied by Dr. John Alberon down in California, and there is considerable excitement beginning to grow in the scientific world with that particular finding. So we have more work to do, but I think it's a fairly significant discovery.
We're good enough friends I can say this stuff without it being awkward. There came a point in your work where you really were put through the mill. If anything, the phrase, American phrase, you were stung. You were set up. A false crop circle was established. You said the wrong thing, basically, and caught holy hell, and the work essentially was set back a few years, wasn't it?
It was. There will be many serious researchers out there that blame me, and I take my part in that. The setback, which I unfortunately was majorly part of, was, as you know, Operation Blackbird.
Yes. Yes, that is something that I think most people that are interested in crop circles really don't know about. Like, I never heard about it. Tell me about Operation Blackbird.
Well, Operation Blackbird came out of a personal interest that some production staff, a director and a producer in BBC Television, they had done several programs with us, and they became more and more intrigued. They became more and more convinced that indeed we had something of riveting interest, that they got involved with themselves. They encouraged BBC to set up some funding for a major surveillance operation. They, with Nippon Television, Mr. Michihiro Ogawa of Thursday Night Special, you know him
Yes,
well.
indeed.
Yourself.
Yeah.
He secured the 90% funding from Japan through Nippon, the other 10% coming from BBC. They arranged with the British Army, Ministry of Defence in Great Britain, they asked me, first of all, where, as far as data is concerned, where is it possible, if we throw everything we can at this, with cameras, funding, personnel,
Where's the best
where's
chance?
the best place to be
Yeah.
of catching a crop circle form? So the idea was, we're going to give our best hit at this, a period of 10 days, throw everything at it. We had, literally, I would say probably £2 million worth of equipment. Wow. Brought in there by the British Army and a number of other technical suppliers. We had low light cameras, image intensifiers, thermal imagers. We had banks of cameras scanning an area from a Ministry of Defence location, scanning a place where we had crop circles appear every year.
Wow.
We knew there was a window, the peak of the data showed us that if we were lucky, we could catch this between June and August.
Right.
So, as we do now know from witnesses who have seen them form, that we're looking at a very narrow window between 10 and 15 seconds. So we need to be in the right place, and we need to catch 10 or 15 seconds worth to see it form. But we did throw everything at it, and we had a great deal of backing. It was supposed to be a secret operation, where if we had captured a crop circle forming,
Wow.
there was a lot of money in that for television.
Sure.
We were going to be given critical information and data for analysis. And I will be frank with you that there is no question in my mind that at day 2, when uniformed military personnel arrived on site and asked for a meeting, somebody, I have suspicions, somebody somewhere opened, and in other words, they told the media, national and international media, where we were and what we were doing. So there was a huge window opened, and television arrived from all over the world. We had a saturation situation in a place where we might see a crop circle forming. I personally feel this became too hot for the British government, and we were infiltrated. We had uniformed personnel arrive. We were encouraged to work with them for a return, and at the early morning of the following day, when the technical parameters were known of the equipment, we were infiltrated by the military. I mean, not in a secret way. These were uniformed,
not covert.
military
Yeah.
personnel were there, and a hoax was performed. I didn't know. I was set up. There's no excuses, Peter. I was the guy, foolishly, who went on live television. It came into Good Morning America live here, went into, all around the world. But I was going out live saying, responding to what I was told we had. And we have a pattern. I can see there's a pattern in the field. just outside of the technical parameters of our equipment.
And you know the history of this piece of real estate. They're going to
Absolutely.
appear here.
I absolutely know this, and I'm being told that unusual lights have been seen.
Oh boy.
We've got it on film, and I'm expected to respond right out of my bed. I'm pulled out of bed. I arrive on the scene, and I'm told we're like 20 seconds, you're on, and on I go, beamed out worldwide, and I speak all that I could speak. Was we have a real event, because I'm told it's appeared, in front of all these cameras, only to see that it is clearly man-made when we enter that field. It's been manufactured, and what that communicated to the world was this is just a nonsense. People make crop circles. The media picked up, the satellite dishes came down, and they went home.
What a terrible day.
And
Oh
it was
my
a
gosh.
terrible day where I was almost
Oh,
ashamed
God.
to walk outside of my door. And the crop circle fraternity, the researchers that are beginning to drawn towards the subject, I think were obviously saddened. I didn't feel too much sympathy at that time. There was anger that I should have been more careful.
And we know the major media had a field day with this.
Wow. Done. And it's seen now publicly, worldwide, as a hoax. After all, this was clearly a hoax. But a year later, we have now about 1,500 more patterns appearing all over the place, coming in at one point at 15 each day. Now the media begin to ask questions again. It's like, well, yeah, but how did they make this? What about this one? What about this one? What about the one in the rice paddy field in Japan? What about the tobacco plants in the United States? What about this one in grass down in Brazil? I mean, these guys are not making all of them, are they? But all the time, the word that's coming through is hoax. And again, privately, I know that you and I have spoken before about the CIA approach to me. Before I came to this country, I was, for the first and only time, I was asked to speak to a television interview and to state that I had discovered this crop circle phenomenon was a hoax. But I was asked to do that, which I
How
felt...
were you approached, Colin?
Where?
How and where? Yeah.
Fascinating circumstances. They are unbelievable. It started where Pat Delgado and myself, after the success of Circular Evidence, were asked to do a live television program at Pebble Mill, BBC television studios, Pebble Mill, Birmingham, in England. We arrived in a hotel put up by BBC, and we had a phone call that evening. The filming was the following day in the studios. And we had a producer on there saying, we have located a man who claims to have seen a crop circle form. Okay, well, I had already interviewed several who had also seen crop circles
And
form.
interestingly, they did describe the same kind of...
Yeah,
Okay.
well, if I had been extremely bright and on the ball, I might have suspected there was something not quite kosher with this, because I was asked, I just happened to be the guy, Pat was in the same room, I just happened to be the guy that picked the phone up.
Oh, God.
And the producer said, give us some questions that will, tell us whether this guy's really legit. What these people claim to see when they make circles form. Give us some questions. So I gave him some information and what other people had told us. And that was the last of that phone call. Get to the studios following day, and there in the audience, we're told we will not be allowed to speak to this man until we're on air. They want this fresh. Now I understood it. That from that.
Okay, but
So
still.
right, sit in audience of about probably 50 people, and planted in the audience there is this man who says, "I've seen a crop circle form." Now then, this legitimizes this man to be seen in the presence of crop circle researchers from this moment on, because he's in the scene. He is a Scotsman up in Scotland, happened to see a crop circle form.
That's a point in his favor for starters.
Right. Well, that's where it ended, right there. That was a summer television interview. That evening, in this winter's evening, I have a rap at the door in my home in Andover, and immediately, I'm very good with faces, I recognize this man, and this man, boy, he is like steel. This is the man that I saw in that studio. Immediately I know where it was. I said, the guy that saw the crop circle form? Yes, he said. And he's looking at me like,
Implacable.
this is blank.
Yeah.
And he said to me, instruction, at my door with my wife in the other room.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
This
I
is
tell you,
your home.
This is my home. And what he said then was, put on your coat. And I said, well, he said, I want to talk to you. So anyway, I put my coat on. And there it's early hours in the morning. And he was streaming information. We're walking up and down this street with very few cars passing me.
And it's
coming out
after
of it.
midnight.
Oh, this is now getting on 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And he just stopped. He stood still and he said, as of this moment, you're one of us. And I said, who do you mean? What do you mean, one of us? He said, CIA. I said, well, do you have any credentials?
My first thought.
Credentials?
Yeah, right.
Right.
And,
I mean, I've already wasted this much time.
and I'm the Queen's illegitimate son.
Yeah, exactly. He said, you will only ever meet me. I only ever meet my boss. He said, do you think I carry around a CIA, identification? He said, look, we're going to take you to a college, government college. I will name it Easingwold in England. Mm-hmm. It's a Home Office college, which I had been to several times. I knew it existed.
In your capacity?
In my capacity
right,
as
okay.
government official, because I was involved with major civil emergency underground control facilities when we were in the Cold War situation. And I had been to this college, and so I knew this guy knew something, because he said, we're going to have you go to this college. We will teach you to read certain advertisements in national newspapers. Our instructions will come to you through these advertisements, and we will give you a piece of equipment which you will know which are the genuine crop circles and which are not. And I'm just absolutely floored. I'm not only angry, I'm extremely worried, because he said,
You're one of us?
You
Excuse
are one
me,
of
I didn't
us.
join.
No, and actually it brings it all back to
Yeah.
me, because he named each of the known crop circle researchers. He went through Pat, he went through Terence Meaden, Dr. Meaden, he went through George Wingfield, Busty Taylor. He named these people, and he said, one at a time, we will remove them from the equation. We will manipulate enough to discredit them.
You'll be the star?
You will be the star. You will finish up, and I am still sat in front of you. I have not been removed. I was told you will be left in the middle, and we will ask of you one interview. That one interview will be when you will tell the people that these are hoaxes. You're doing a great job. You have a very good public affinity with the public. Carry on being Colin Andrews. You will not need to stop lecturing or television interviews. You carry on being yourself. One interview, you will tell the people these are hoaxes. They told me to set up a bank account and to buy a piece of land up in Scotland. The money from the agency would be obviously put to this bank account, and all of this. So what I did is I spoke to my daughter and told her to forget everything I'd ever told her, about the phenomenon. And I basically tried to bring myself in line, because I knew my place had changed. Without my request, somebody arrived at my door, and suddenly I'm being put in a different position. So I was trying to come to terms with this. That's how it goes.
Did it strike you at any point that, gee, this is the CIA and I'm a British citizen in Britain, how come this isn't MI6 or some working group within the MOD?
Yes, it did. And what I did is I telephoned a contact up in the Ministry of Defence and told them that I'd been approached by a person who claimed to be, I have not seen any identification.
Talked a good line, but...
Right. That I was told to ignore all instructions, that there was, that nobody had the right. I said, well, I have some fears for my security because I am refusing to do what I've been asked to do. I got phone calls coming to my home, which were taped, and I simply didn't answer them. But I had probably 5 or 6 calls that used the bad language, and they were basically nobody threatened to kill me, but I was told to pick up the effing phone. If you know what's effing good for you, you do this or you do that. Well, I didn't, and I refused to do anything that I'd been asked to do. But that night, I was asked when I was told who this guy was and who I was expected to be. His next instruction, and this is all in the same few hours, was he said to me, before I got back to my home with him, at now probably 2 o'clock in the morning, where is the nearest crop circle? And we had several dozens in southern England. At that time, there was one about 14 miles away, near Winchester. And I said, 14 miles away, he said, jump in the car. Now, this is a black night. This was the most foolish thing I've ever done in my life.
It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
And
this
more.
Is a total stranger.
Total stranger. My friend has left me. My wife is now back in the house. And I'm in my vehicle with this guy.
Very reckless. And at the same time,
it was
again,
crazy, Peter. And yet
follow
there was
these
a certain
threads.
command about him. I still felt I had options. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, to be honest with you, no hope in hell am I ever going to do this. And yet I had to appear to be going along with it. That was how I rightly or wrongly, that's how I worked. I had this thing thrown at me, and in seconds, there I was. But on my way to this circle, he was using my cell phone. The old equivalent was on a wire. It was actually, I had an aerial because of my capacity in government. I had government phones.
That's when it was a big deal to have a phone in your car.
Yeah, it was, but I was privileged, and it wasn't mine. It was government equipment. But it was out on the public network, and he was using this, and he was all the time he was talking to somebody. He wasn't faking it, because I could hear, like if you had a phone, you can hear there's somebody there. Indeed. I couldn't hear the words. Yeah. My hearing's not brilliant either, but I could hear there was somebody there.
What was he saying?
What he was saying, yes, I'm with Colin Andrews. We're taking the left on the A343 highway. We're heading towards Winchester. And he was relaying to whoever this was exactly where we were, and we got to where I knew the crop circle was, which he may well have known too. I don't know. But I then did the most foolish thing, which I just had to trust that somebody was with me. I walked out into this black field, away from the highway, which I had to get into the field. I'm in front, he's behind me. I walked right to, judging where this is in the blackness of the night. I'd been to there many times to this. It was the first pictogram. It's just coming back to me.
Sakes.
It's just coming back as I'm speaking.
And moonless night, no ambient light?
Moonless night was nothing. And I reached there, I could see a shadow, and I knew we were there. And he stood there alongside me. He said, face east. And I'm facing east. He just stood there. Now this was, he was telling me that he was going to demonstrate something to me, and that with the equipment that the CIA or the American government would supply me with, would tell me the difference between a real and a not real. You will be the privileged person who will know, because you are going to be working with us. So he faced east, and he stood there, and I'm observing everything. I'm listening, I'm looking at him, I'm looking back to the silhouette of my vehicle,
your senses
back by the highway, and I'm on top alert because I'm thinking, who the hell is this guy? And I'm listening. And he said, do you hear that? And I said, no. He said, you can't? I said, no. Do you hear that? No, I said, I don't hear. You don't? Now, I don't know whether he was testing me for my honesty, or whether I literally couldn't hear what he had produced. I don't know this answer to this, but I said no. And with it, sort of like he was a little bit ruffled by that. And he said, well, let's go back to the car. So we get back, in the car, and now I am absolutely shattered. I'm not only am I upset.
Well, you're exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
Physically.
I'm extremely concerned, because now I know somebody's bought me off.
What have I got myself into?
Exactly right. And how am I going to get rid of this guy? I mean, to be honest with you, my primary concern is get the hell this guy out of my hair so that I can get help, so that I can get my government guys to know who the hell he is. Let's get this checked out. Again, I get back in the vehicle, he's back on the phone again, you know, and he's talking to somebody saying, we're now leaving the site, da 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 da. And I get to this roundabout, I think you call them circular, the rotaries,
Yeah, yeah.
where I know it's right, back to my home. He said left. Now, this guy clearly knows where he is. Now, this is a man that's been on BBC television, who claims to have seen a crop circle form from Scotland, who knows exactly where he is in central southern England. I said it's right, because I don't know what he means. I said, no, it's right here for Andover, left. He said, take a left. And foolishly, I took a left. I said, so what's going on? This is Colin the Placid, suddenly getting very ruffled.
Yeah.
I said, look, you know, I'm very, very tired. I don't know where this is all going, but Andover is in the opposite direction. No, he said, I want you to meet a person in Southampton.
Right.
I went to where this guy instructed me to go, which is a very large block of high-rise, we call them flats in England, high-rise building. Somebody's waiting inside. We get to a door, glass doors, where you need a code to press to go in. But it's domestics. I would think probably owned by Southampton City Council. There's a full parking lot. I pull in. I think regular people live there, but they have their own security, door entry system.
Right.
This is what I'm trying to weigh up quickly, you know, because I've never been to this place. We get there, and there's a young woman, came out, waiting, clearly expecting us, I guess from my phone. She came, she pressed a button indoors, the door opened, I went in with him. They're glass doors, I could see her in there. They didn't exchange any words. We went into a lift, went up, and I'm thinking at this point, now to be honest, I'll be blunt here, I was shit scared. I thought, okay, Colin, you've got to remember what floor you're getting off of. You've got to remember exactly how you got in here. And I'm trying to weigh everything up.
Myself into this.
I know. But it's a crazy story. And you know, I can only tell you how it happened and where it went. Yeah. And we came out of the lift on the 22nd floor. And the first door, it looked like the corridor of any hotel you go in. Lots of doors equally spaced either side of a carpeted, you know, hallway, corridor. And the first one on the left-hand side is where he took me. And he hit the door. Nobody answered. He pressed the button. Nobody answered. And he came down through, like we have in Britain, a letterbox where people put the letters.
Of course.
And he went down through like this, and it was dark inside. He shouted out, he really hollered out, nobody came. So however well or not this had been organised, at this point, it went wrong. There was nobody there. We went back home. The shortest version was we went back relieved to get back to my home in Andover. I was so confused. I took the wrong road out of Southampton into the New Forest, the ancient forest down there. I was completely scattered.
It's the middle of the night now.
It was middle of the night, wondering what the hell's going on, but I did eventually get us home. That was the last I ever saw of that man. He did tell me that at a given point, a video would be produced with crop circles forming.
Oh my goodness.
And that I would be instrumental in putting that into the public domain.
And of course you
And it
never
did happen.
mentioned that to me.
No.
When we, oh my gosh.
The people that he told me would be removed from the scene were removed from the scene. The video he told me would happen. I have evidence to this. I told my family this. I've never mentioned it on camera, the full detail I've just given you. And you now know that what he told me would happen, happened. So I have no particularly good reason to believe that it was anything other than an intelligence operation, which, as far as they were concerned, I did not buy into, and I will not. I mean, it's not. I'm not expecting anybody to say, "Great, Colin," you know, all the rest of it. I just know who I am, and I know that my job that I set myself was to allow the public to bring this subject forward based upon the ground data, and that's not going to be contaminated deliberately by anybody who either already knows what it is or is going to manipulate what it is for their own purposes. This has to be, in my opinion, what we have got going on in the fields is so important The time we are now living in, which did not exist when that guy arrived at my door, we are now living in a world which is in pretty severe difficulties. And I believe that when this phenomenon began, in the modern time, 1975, it knew where it was going. This has been ahead of the game. And now we have reached a position where it has tweaked on us on every level, at the spiritual level, at the scientific level. The questions are now asked. And it comes from the outside in. We're going to finish up having a certain amount of information which is intuitively communicated via symbols that mean more to us than we'll ever believe. And here we have a gift of a phenomenon we cannot account for. There is a huge mystery here. And maybe I mean I can add to it further. But when we're talking about people thinking they're all man-made, I wish, and I would indeed invite people to do what I have done, and that is to get on an aircraft, head out to Australia, head into the outback, where I have been, and seen 11 crop circles, nowhere near Doug and Dave, nowhere near anybody else. Two little farmers have 11 crop circles turn up in their field overnight, in their wheat field. Head out to Japan, in the rice paddy fields, where they are prevalent, simple designs, no tracks in, no tracks out. You sink in a paddy field to get to it, let alone make it. No tracks, no anything else. In this country, in the United States, they are appearing in corn. Now, anybody who wants to wonder if this is all nonsense, head to England now, and I'll meet you there, and we will show you. You cannot bend those plants beyond 45 degrees, but they'll snap off like a carrot.
Right.
But on occasions, the crop circles appear in crops that reveal major clues. These are normally plants that either show mechanical damage easily, or indeed fracture due to the hollow structure of the plant, like tobacco in the United States, in all of the ripened cereal crops in England, or oilseed rape called canola here in the US. These are reeds here in Connecticut that resemble very closely the structure of those plants that I'm referring to. And in a crop circle, those brittle plants bend at right angles without being broken at all, as if they are steamed into position. But you can see what happens when a hollow plant like this is bent at around about 30 or between 30 and 45 degrees. I'm at about 30 now, 45, and there it goes. It's fractured. There isn't any way that I'm going to be able to do anything with that plant now, and yet that plant will, in a crop circle, bend at right angles evenly without fracturing like this, and will remain horizontal and continue to grow in the horizontal position. Here is a major challenge for biophysicists. We have one of the world's leading biophysicists, Dr. Levengood, looking at the cellular structure of the plants involved in the real crop circles. And he cannot begin to explain or replicate the effects we are seeing. I can show you geometries. They are huge, they are vast, they are highly complex, and they are 100% accurate. Over a distance of 700 feet across, 650,000 square feet, a formation which is on the screen now, the Galaxy formation in southern England, appeared last year in August in a period of 4 hours of total darkness in an English field. Vast, over 600 individual circles, not a single mistake. Try drawing that on a piece of paper and a ruler with every piece of technological equipment I could provide you or myself with right now.
In a total controlled situation.
Exactly. Yeah. And we will make mistakes. Ask any draftsman, any architect. We make a mistake and we rub it out. You cannot do it in these plants. You make a mistake and the plants stay down.
It's like a watercolor.
It's exactly right.
Shot.
Exactly right, Peter.
And we haven't even talked about some of the other physiological changes that happen in the real ones.
Right.
It's much easier to hold on to the Doug and Dave mythology. And Doug and Dave were, it's fair to say, the best known circle makers.
Yeah.
These two old codgers came forward, was it in the 90s? The
1991.
Early 90s? Okay.
Yeah.
And claimed to have been responsible for a tremendous number of circles.
The Today national newspaper in Great Britain had a reporter and a photographer with them for a week. They built what was going to be a front page story. The newspaper were going to take the credit of resolving the crop circle phenomenon. And they invited, or at least Pat Delgado invited me to join them 12 hours before it was actually published at his home, where they arrived at his door to say, you know, we actually have, unbeknown to you, caught you out. We've invited you to a crop circle, which was made by these two men. Now, these two men sat right there were Doug and Dave. And I was there, I was invited there as a guest. So primarily I sat there quietly and just observed and listened. And the Today newspaper reporter, Brough, I believe his name was, Graham Brough, he was making notes as he was telling Pat, and I just happened to be there, of this horrendous story that was about to destroy my career. Certainly, I'd only resigned my post in government job 1 week when they're telling me that this is about to be blown to the world. It's all a hoax. So I'm listening. I'm anxious. I'm listening. And most of its traffic goes between these two men and Pat Delgado. Right. Anyway, I said, oh, that's right. Doug Bowers, with Dave alongside him, said, you know the cover of your book, Mr. Andrews? You got it right there, Peter. There it is. He said, I said, of course, yes. Those two circles, those two patterns.
Both of them.
Yep, we made those. I said, oh. So now, the inner voice, thank you, said to me, ask them how they made the Celtic cross, because in that ring, you see the ground information here, in this ring here, actually right there, in this segment, the plants were not lying basically at a, what would it be, 180 degrees, in other words, in sympathy with the manner in which it would have been produced by people, pushed down in front of the piece of stick that they claim to have used. These were radial. These were whilst you have a geometry here, which
is that
a
like
ring.
a foot wide or something? The circle,
it's a meter, about a meter.
Okay, so
it's 1.2 meters wide.
A little more than a yard.
Right, round here were indeed lying right down in front, just as if somebody had pushed them down.
But on that side,
around here, these plants slowly but surely came around until they were radial, right across, as if some energy, if you looked at it as a multi-dimensional bubble, was pushing out from the center. Of course, we spent hours with this, looking at what on earth could create that. So knowing this, I said to Pat, could you pull a piece of paper over, you know? And I drew this out. I said, and I showed them this detail. I put it in front of them like this, and I said, and how did you make this? And that was what that moment came when Doug looks to Dave. He looks on the floor. Dave looks back to me. He said, well, we didn't make that one. But you know what was telling, Peter? Graham Brough, the reporter, his pen stopped writing. He made not a single note of that important moment because the story was cast.
Yeah.
That story came out with any reference to that.
Don't bother me with facts.
No.
We've made our decision on
absolutely.
how this is going to run.
Absolutely. We raised other points. What we've been looking at the start, of course, is the embracement of everything that we have reported to us.
Yes.
But to prove 100%, 100%, that one of these is not a counterfeit coin. If we don't have one counterfeit in circulation, we've got a phenomenon. And that one in front of you there, that Celtic cross, is real. It douses, the cellular changes are there were no tracks in or out, and the lay of the plants could not be made by people, and confessed right there on camera. The photographer there from the national newspaper,
Ignored it.
Did not make that one.
Some of these things, I don't know what else to call them sometimes, that have formed reflect and incorporate the most sophisticated equations or the most extraordinary geometry.
When we had the Julia set arrive outside Stonehenge.
Talk for a moment, to digress, the Julia set. What is the Julia set?
Right, the Julia set comes from nature. It's nature working with mathematics naturally. And it is the ear well, it's the structure of the ear well, it's the spiral of the galaxies. It comes from fractal geometry, but it is known as the Julia set. This Julia set, this vast 600-foot formation, arrived at Stonehenge on a 7th of July, 1996. A light aircraft pilot flying in secure airspace, Minister of Defence secure airspace.
Because that's over Stonehenge.
Yeah, it is, right over
right.
Stonehenge. It's out of bounds to the public because there's a top secret air establishment known as Boscombe Down,
Right.
which fringes the area. So that airspace is secure. Nobody is allowed in and out of it without air traffic control permission. And this pilot, who I have spoken with, obtained permission from the Minister of Defence. They went in, he had a medical doctor with him, flying for the purposes of taking quick photographs. They allowed him in, just take quick photographs of Stonehenge, out.
I see.
So they came into secure airspace, 7th of July, and at 5:15 p.m., sunny day, he filmed Stonehenge, took photographs around, and left, and under instruction, all monitored, radar and all the rest of it.
Of course.
He landed up the road, he got into his motor vehicle, and he drove past on a highway you'll see on a photograph here. South of Stonehenge, Stonehenge you can see clearly to your right, and on the left is a wheat field, where 45 minutes later he had been flying over, nothing in it. At 6 o'clock, vehicles are stopping, their brake lights are going on, the police begin to get calls, nuisance calls of drivers who are wanting something done about this. It's a dangerous stretch of road, so police have no phone calls whatsoever on the 911, 999 in England, 911 system till 6 o'clock. So, proving it would seem that at 5:15 there was nothing in that field. 6 o'clock, police are getting calls in Wiltshire and Hampshire. Security at Stonehenge, which is 24 hours a day, are seeing there's something in this field. Air traffic control from the Minister of Defence are now saying they have something in this field. In a window of 45 minutes, this vast, extraordinary geometry has appeared. Well, this comes from the science of fractals, which only in recent times we've begun to understand anything about ourselves. If you take the Mandelbrot set, chaos theory, right there. Mandelbrot himself, Professor Mandelbrot, was a student at Cambridge University. And Ickleton, on the outskirts of Cambridge, within sight of his university, arrives exactly that.
And
The
what a
Mandelbrot
pattern.
set. What a pattern. With ratios. We are looking at consistent ratios, which are, they are actually diatonic ratios. Professor Gerald Hawkins,
Oh, yes,
mathematician,
Stonehenge Decoded, one of the great
absolutely,
distinguished...
Stonehenge Decoded,
Yeah.
a superb mathematician as well as astronomer of note in Washington. Unbeknown to me, he's going through this book, he's analysing them, and what he finds, to his amazement, is he's looking at music. Being a musician himself, he shouted out to his wife in the kitchen, "You've got to come here. I am listening to music. I am looking at the notes of her harp that she plays." Just to show you what I mean, if you take this, and this is a crop circle. Some of those crop circles come with single and double rings. We'll take it as a single ring around that circle, and then square the area of the circle, which gives us a particular value, and then square the area of the ring around that circle. That too gives us a particular value. The ratio which exists between this and this is what we're hearing by pressing those two keynotes, in the white keynotes on a piano in the Western musical system. That's a diatonic ratio. The comparison of one to the other in audible terms is what you're looking at physically structured into the crop circles. Now, Peter, just to say, what that means is that if we are looking at hoaxing, we have here an international conspiracy. It means that we are working to a plan, to a set plan, to set mathematical equations, or we're looking at something else.
There is a phenomena where some crop circles, again, I don't know how the debunkers might explain this, where there is a music, where there is a sound, and you've recorded this. BBC has recorded this
Yes.
sound. Tell us about that.
That's an excellent point. Yes, first of all, the sound has been heard by a number of people. As far as I know, the first time, certainly the first record I have, or we have of it, actually arrived in very extraordinary, bizarre circumstances. I had been with a group of researchers, the usual team, plus a few others we invited in, to a ring which had been discovered by a pilot just southwest of Stonehenge, about 30 miles away, and not so far from my home. So we went there, did the work, went home. I went back in the evening to take a measurement in that ring that I had overlooked. I was alone in the evening, and I came out of the ring and walked into the standing vegetation up to about my navel. Beautiful setting, sunset. I always remember hearing a dog barking in the way off distance. It was real nice, you know.
Pastoral.
Nobody there to worry me. I was there with permission of the farmer, so I had no problem. I was just there, and you could say meditating, but it would be a little bit more accurate to say I was sort of praying. Not overly religious. I don't know who or what God is, to be frank. I have a very strong feeling that there is indeed a higher force, and that I respect. But what I did, and if I don't give it to you as it happened, we're going to lose the value of this. I put my hands together, and I said in my head, I said, please God, give me a clue. What is happening here? It's years of frustration. We really weren't getting anywhere. Gathering data.
What year is this?
This was 1987.
Oh boy. Okay, so.
And so I prayed, and I had literally, Peter, this is the relevance of the event, or it was absolutely coincidental, or I would give it to you as it happened. Immediately I asked for a clue. There was this, the sound. It sounded like I've heard here in America, you have these crickets, which we don't have in England. There's small grasshoppers, but over here
bring
you have...
some over for you.
Thank you. There's this, this sort of purring sound. Well, that's what happened. I said, please give me a clue. And then it instantaneously, about 12 feet away, might be less, just over here, very directional, there was this purring sound started. And it got louder, and it got louder, and it didn't stop. And I was, rational mind, is that an insect? What is that? I must be honest, because at the engineering side of me, I'm waiting for something to manifest. It sounded like high energy. It reached a point where if I do this to you,
could literally
can you
feel the
that?
wind, yeah,
right,
the
you
air.
feel that air?
Yeah.
The resonance of the air was moving, and it was so loud. I thought, my God, I'm out of here. You
You're
know?
in the center of the circle, or
No, I was off. There was the ring over here.
you're off to the side
I was off to
looking
the
at it?
side. I
Okay.
was probably 20 feet away. I was just stood in the standing crop. The ring was over here, and I just did this. It was just a moment before I left. I was ready to go home. I just there for a few moments.
Sure.
The sound came up, and it got louder, and it got louder, and it got louder, and the air started to move. Oh my God, what is that? And I wanted to get out. I just looked to get out. So I was about to run, and at the moment I reached that emotional state, it stopped. It started, then it stopped. And then it was a year later, it was almost to the day, a year later, BBC Television were doing an interview with myself and Pat Delgado. I had finished my interview. I'm stood next to the sound engineer, and the camera is over here. They're the crew. Pat Delgado went into the centre of this large, very large circle to do his interview. And he started. And I suppose a quarter of the way in, I could hear this sound. And just as I'm thinking, my God, that is that sound. Again, we'd already recorded it once on one other occasion that was in the background. But here it is now, and we've got all these people here. And as I'm hearing it, it's actually coming out of the headset of the sound engineer. Pat Delgado, all of his hairs are up on his head. He's on camera. All the hairs come up his arm, on his head.
Right.
And he said, he broke his interview. He said, my God, he said, this energy is all around me. What was happening was that whatever that sound was, it was electromagnetic component, because the electrostatic field, it completely encapsulated Pat Delgado in the center of that circle, and he was picking it up, transferring the electrostatic effect through his radio microphone.
Oh, for
he had
goodness
his
sakes,
lead at the
right.
back.
Yeah.
On the
Sure.
aerial.
Right,
the
he's
aerial.
on a wireless.
Right. So what we have now is, with television camera rolling, it's being
Feedback.
recorded. So we see the effect. There's Pat saying, my God, look at this, He walked out of it, it stopped. He walked back into the bubble, and we had it. The television camera was completely destroyed. The television camera lights were coming up. The whole thing disintegrated from that moment in time.
What about the correlation between the appearance of crop circles with sacred, ancient, pre-Christian sites.
We have there in central southern England an area, a small, relatively small area, 41 miles down each leg of an equilateral triangle, in which there are more circular, monolithic, archaeological sites.
Including the most famous one in the world.
Absolutely. Anywhere on the planet. You have Avebury, you have Silbury Hill, you have Woodhenge, you have Stonehenge, you have literally hundreds of circular burial grounds. I cannot accept that it's coincidental that in that same small area of 41 miles in each leg of that same equilateral triangle, you have the greatest concentration on the planet of similar circles to similar ratios. That's the other point. If you square the area of the horseshoe of Stonehenge and square the area of its ring, you're back to the same ratio. Good. So there is a theory, it's on the board, it has to remain there until we get further down the road. But was ancient man 3,000 years ago constructing in stone what had been a crop circle? Did the ancient man see the amber lights and the little balls of light, the discs that we see today, that we have on film? Were these seen and seen as something beyond? Was this God? Was this somebody and something from beyond that came, they witnessed perhaps an event in less than 10 seconds? We have 50 people on planet Earth today that have seen crop circles form. Was it that in that busy little area of Stonehenge 4,000 years ago, they saw a circle form and then began to pray to it? So they perhaps placed stone on and set into position permanently
To mark
the
place of the appearance.
It is a theory that's there. It's not my theory, but I respect it. The points are accurate.
And it's human nature, especially among...
I have no difficulty with it. Yeah. Until I know who's inside that box, answer resolved, crop circle mystery resolved, let's leave it there.
First it was reported, then you actually captured it photographically, these extremely fascinating, unexplained, they seem to be little silvery discs, a foot or two across, that are associated with crop circles forming. And I remember you telling me once that although you hadn't done it before, when you and colleagues started to look at your litany of still photographs, you started to find those.
Yeah.
You've got, 30, 40 photographs that show those.
Absolutely.
What theoretically even are they? Because they are beyond me, and another thing that establishes the real ones as real.
Well, it's another whole area of research. I've asked colleagues of both yours and mine to look at these and give me some feedback, because they are UFOs in the sense that they are unexplained. They're moving about with purpose. This is not the random movement. These objects on film, we've got some being observed by the military helicopters themselves. In fact, I think there was an incident where they attempted, that is the British Army helicopters, attempted to move us out of this area when one of these things was dancing right in front of their helicopter.
Oh, what's that? What's that? There's something flashing on the ground.
What they are, I have no idea. They're part of the equation. People have asked, do those spheres make crop circles?
Right.
Well, apart from one video, which you and I have discussed at length.
And we'll discuss again.
And we will indeed, and will be, I think, for many years to come. That video shows everything we have reported to us, absolutely. With the circles being made in less than 10 seconds, we've eyewitnesses that say that, where the plants resonate and then drop to the ground quickly. Yes, we've heard that from other people. The spheres are on the film, yes, and we've seen that on other films too. We have it on other films. We've seen them ourselves. I mean, the eyewitnesses, this is the paradox here. You have these eyewitnesses, about 50 of them, describing seeing different things as the circles are forming. People that are there, walking dogs here in this country, southern England, watch the plants oscillating, whiplashing, and then from the center outwards. In 10 seconds, they all say this. I've interviewed many from the Sikh group at the UN.
Flat and spin.
Boom, straight out. One swooshing movement without seeing lights in the sky. No lights in the sky. No objects in the sky. They're seeing plants collapse to the ground without any rational explanation. No whirlwinds, no tornadoes, a crop circle.